maybe I was a bit crazy myself because this huge novel, which and Beelzebub is in this certain kind of starship going off to receive some honor in the universe because he's a big.
Is Beelzebub the devil, or is it?
Well, Beelzebub's a good guy in this novel. it's like, and his grandson, who is a mere 500 years old, is fascinated by the stories about Earth. So his grandfather has a lot of time. So he assists his grandfather, Beelzebub, tells him the story of Earth. So he gives the history of Earth, and everything is like totally upside down from what our normal history of the Earth, but it's kind of a comedy in a way. Here's an example of Beelzebub's story. What is the purpose of humanity on Earth? The purpose for humanity on the Earth, I love this stuff, was to produce what he called sacred rose corn. Sacred rose corn was a kind of energy that emanated from dying organisms. And so the earth being coated with this organic slime, and the chief part of this organic slime is man. And it's like the energy released by humanity goes off the earth to feed the moon. I was 20 years old, and I was suddenly seized with an anxiety about my future, right? Oh, I've got to get my education. I've got to, have a career. So I have to get out of this place. And it took me 4 months to earn enough for the ticket. Jeez. I didn't have a cent over the ticket. But when I arrived in Vancouver, I had $50 in my pocket. And I was drunk all the time because I was doing sketches of people, right? Just like, oh my God. It's great. It's like, and I was hung out at the bar, do your picture, whatever the price was. Sure, have a drink, drinking, drawing. It's like, yeah, it was, the good old days. I must be getting old and reminiscing, right? Basically, I'm just going to talk about the technical aspects of the work, which will lead into some of the theoretical aspects of the work. These are meant to indicate the kind of work we're looking at here, which is what I would call book art, as opposed to wall art. To me, there are different species. I noticed that when Lyle first came in here, he's going like this. So I said, go up to the work, right? Because we have a habit of standing back when something's on the wall. Reinhardt, the American painter, when somebody asked him about what do you thought about sculpture, he said, well, that's what you bump into when you back up to look at a painting. So I wanted to make some comments about the installation and why I have it set up this way. So first thing you might notice is the magnifying glass. So that's to invite you to go into the work in a deep way so that you can walk into the wood quite deeply. And you may encounter the great god Pan. If so, don't panic. One of the things I say about these things, for me, what they're about is how they're made. And how they're made is with a whole bunch of little marks. It's like every day I go and I make these little marks. And I have a system here, a method, which allows me to make many, many kinds of marks. I'd like to quote by Jules Bissier, who's a Swiss painter. Listen to the brush. So the brush does the painting, and your body obeys the brush. It's not an intellectual process. You can intellectualize afterwards, which I have a tendency to do. But basically that magical moment, and those of you who do painting know this, that magical moment which, as Derrida says, is a moment of blindness, actually. He wrote a book called Blindness, which is about painting. The actual moment when you're putting it down, you're blind. And Hegel refers to what he calls Geist, the Zeitgeist, which is a cosmic spirit. So, not to get too mystical about this, but to me this moment that we all live for who do painting is that moment when you're connected with the cosmic spirit, the Geist, in the Hegelian sense, right? So that's when something happens. And then you see it afterwards. And when you see it, then you can make up stories about it. Like, I see Leonardo. Or I see Odilon Redon. Or I see Magnasco. Even before I even start, it's like, suddenly I'm going in and I'm doing these little forms and I see these painters and the marks that I make, for me, are resonant with this art history. It's like, that's what painting's about. You know, you kind of start to see. It's like, because normally you don't see. This is what I tried to, when I was teaching. I taught as a sessional person at UBC. I tried to set up exercises where people could actually see, because most people name things. You know, they name the tree, and when you name the tree, you draw some kind of acceptable convention of the tree that's already been established for 300 years, right? So in order to draw the tree, you have to see it. And to see it is a process. So all the kind of exercises I set up were a way to kind of seduce people into a process where they could suddenly start to see something. That makes me totally free. I'm absolutely free. Freedom is hard. I mean, it's like you're kind of lost. Ian Hamilton Finlay, who I was a fan of his, but I only saw his stuff in books, right? And I knew about Little Sparta, his big garden, but I'd never seen any images of it. So I thought of Ian Hamilton Finlay, even though I'd never seen any images of his garden when I started this. And I even did some pieces that are like his pieces, with a text and an image and this kind of ambiguous layered relationship. And I'm not doing this because it's art. I'm just doing it because it's sort of what happened. You know, I don't consider myself doing art here. It's a kind of project. I sort of, it feels to me like total looking at the past, what I'm doing here. It's all past, right? So I'm not consciously thinking this or that, but I look at this little area, I have to solve it. So I have to do this, and it comes out like something from art history, right? And you know, so I like Derrida was famous for saying, "I'm not a philosopher, but a historian of philosophy." So that's where I think painting is right now. It's like painting, you know, for all the modernist period was going forward to something new, avant-garde, cutting edge. Now it's all, to me, it's all looking back.
Do you think you're at the peak of your creative powers? Are you happy with what
Well,
you're doing here?
yeah, in a way I am, because I feel totally free. You know, before I felt some desire to fit in some way, and also I felt some desire to be part of something. You know. Now I know it's hopeless, right? So so I feel free. So I simply do anything I feel like doing. There's something here. This is a historical moment or something.